To the left, Pellegrini. Inside, Pizarro Golazo. Pizarro Golazo. Here's the goal scorer, Morgan. And he's done it again. Lewis Morgan with a second of the match. Higuain will have the goal. And it's framed in top 90. It's a sensational first goal for Gonzalo Higuain.
Well, I got to say, I'm a bit surprised that you're not in crutches, able to walk, no bruises or anything like that. Anytime you're on a device that goes faster than 5 miles per hour, you typically run into some trees.
Well, fortunately for us, I didn't have wheels attached to these skis, Jay, because we know how I am with 2 wheels.
Yeah. How'd the ski trip go, though?
Ski trip was pretty fun. Ski trip was pretty fun. I feel like we've been doing the podcast probably since my first adventure out west, and I gotta say, I'm improving. You know, there's still a lot to improve, but I'm getting better.
You're off the bunny slopes?
Finally, it was rough.
Very good. Very
but I'm
good.
There.
All right. And the missus was snowboarding, right?
Is that a jab?
That's a slight jab. That's a slight jab. The missus is I can snowboard too, but yeah, I mean, I prefer the safe route at this age. But what was it like, you know, with your girl on the snowboard and her looking over at you, kind of giggling to herself as you're over here on the bunny slopes with your skis?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. She did suggest that I learn snowboarding more than a couple times. I think there was a few giggles probably shared as I was, you know, tops down into some snow a couple times as she came gliding by. But no, there was a small part of me that did say like, hey, you know, maybe I should learn snowboarding. But I think one winter sport in one's life is enough, Jay.
I could see you just like with a snowboard, like at the lodge. And like, all right, I'm gonna head out. Then like, you know, like you left your skis at the door and you just swap them out and just take your skis up there.
Or actually just bounce from bar to bar with like a snowboard in hand.
Just holding your snowboard like the one guy that brings a snowboard with him everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
But never actually snowboards.
Yeah. Well, welcome back everyone to the Inter Miami podcast. I'm Jay Kington alongside Mr. Alex Papa George, who's back in town in the much warmer climate, although it's still a little chilly down here in Florida. But thanks everyone for tuning in. We will be resuming the supporters group series, wrapping up with the Southern Legion. But it's been a while, so we have been waiting for this man to get back in town. He is here now. Wanted to give an update on the news. We look to be rounding out with the Southern Legion. The Northern Pack is now technically part of Vice City. They're the Northern Associated Group of Vice City. I'm sure they'll still be referring to themselves as the Northern Pack. But COVID hit them pretty hard, but they were able to get around it, keep moving forward, and stay involved with the club. So very happy to hear that. And, you know, without further ado, big news. We've been getting a lot of questions about what's up with the player signings. When are we going to fill out our roster? And we do have good news. We were telling everyone to be patient as it will pick up from now until when preseason training camp begins. But the news that broke, everyone was kind of aware of this for a few weeks, but the news that broke was that Ryan Shawcross from Stoke City is now officially a Heron.
Big news coming out from over the pond. This is a piece that, you know, some fans are mixed on. You know, some people love it, some people hate it. But hey, that is to be an Inter Miami fan. It sounds, but no, this signing here, this is big. This is big, and I mean, it seems like his contributions, you know, may even be greater off the pitch in the sense of training and leadership and kind of grooming some of these players, you know, overseas when he was playing for quite a bit of time. I think, Jay, how many years does he have under his belt in actual professional football experience?
In actual professional, not including his youth career, we're talking about 15 years,
exactly.
a little more than that, and then almost 20 years, including his youth career. He started with Manchester United, and then he was eventually sent over on loan to a few teams. The last team he was on loan with Manchester United was Stoke City. And then he spent the next 13 years there at Stoke City, rounding out 400 caps, over 20 goals, I believe. Assists were in the teens. So, you know, I'm kind of right there with you. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword as per any Miami fan. They either love it or hate it. But I think that last year we had a lot of talented players, but we didn't really have the leadership we needed. And I think when you bring in someone, who's been playing over in England for this long, naturally he knows the ins and outs. And I think he will be able to pass on a lot of knowledge and really get our backline in order.
I think even getting our backline in order stands from this point that we're talking about, which is leadership, right? And LGP was our standout performer. We had Andreas Reyes, who is no longer with the club. Nico Figal was kind of the other consistent head, as well as Ben Sweat, who we know is over in Austin for this upcoming season. So having someone like this, if you want to look at our two returning starters, it's really, Nico and LGP. And, what's a common theme with Nico and LGP, Jay?
Yellow cards.
That they're not there, right? That they're not
Nico,
there.
Nico. That's not fair to Nico.
Oh, it's totally fair to Nico.
LGP and Andres were just like, maybe they made a preseason bet who can get the most yellow cards.
Yeah, well, both of them, or all three of them, were trying to win that. There's no question about it. I mean, sure, Nico probably had the lesser of the three groups of yellow cards, but hey, it's not like he didn't have any. So, this guy in particular, I think is going to offer that kind of just seniority leader. At Stoke, Ryan played against Inter Miami head coach Phil Neville in 4 Premier League matches, while Neville actually played over in Everton FC. So they do have a past. They do know each other, obviously playing against each other back in the day. But Ryan also overlapped with new Inter Miami teammate Breck Shea as well in 2013 to 2014 with the Potters. So he does have some connections with Inter Miami. We'll go ahead and see how he fits in.
Yeah, and I'm sure he had great interactions, obviously, with the youth system at Manchester United when Beckham was still a main figure over there, as well as Neville. But yeah, he's had interaction with the key people that he needs to that are really making the decisions in this team. So it'll be very, very interesting to watch. And we'll see what happens. It's so tough to keep making these predictions. We just kind of got to see it out there, on the pitch.
It is. And this person, though, at least is going to come in and have an impact on, those kind of soft skills type of traits, right? Those are types of the intangibles that when you lose a, Luis Robles, right, you got to replace that type of leadership in the locker room. When you lose a Will Trapp, you got to replace that type of leadership in the locker room. So this is a player that I think is going to do us justice over the season, on and off the pitch. He's 6'3", which is a big freaking dude. He is not a small man by any sense of the word. So, he's going to be an admirable force back there.
He will. And so that kind of brings us to the quick math of the last episode. So just working through the open roster slots and the math just wasn't adding up. And so I really had to go back and figure out, what am I missing here?
Thank God they don't give us complex problems to solve, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm like, what are we missing here? Like, obviously, there's a player here that's not adding up, and this is something we did not comment on, but we do have to bring it up. And this one is really heavy,
devastating
on the hearts of the Inter Miami podcast, and that is that the club actually declined the contract option on David Norman Jr., and as a result, DNJ, the podcast favorite, will no longer be with the team. Teardrops all around.
Unbelievable. We thought 2021 was going to be David's breakout year. Clearly, the team had other aspirations for him, but I don't know why we didn't see him on the pitch last year. I thought that was his grooming year. I thought he was going to step into a leadership role.
That injury just kind of ruined his career, man. So much potential.
It's like when you see potentially the takeoff of like a Derrick Rose type of player in the NBA, where just injury faults the man, and it's gonna be tough to bounce back. Everyone, I know people are disappointing. Probably some tears of sadness are trickling down people's cheeks right now, but we'll get through this.
Maybe we'll be able to pick him up when he's like 24.
Maybe we should just have David on here and him just explain to us, the situation. Now that he's off the team, I'm sure he'd open himself up for conversation.
Maybe. But so with Shawcross and Josh Penn finally inking his deal. That was our first round pick in the MLS Super Draft. That leaves us technically with 4 remaining roster spots. I say technically because in all actuality, it's only 3 spots because Ami Mabika will have his deal completed very soon unless he's being a diva about it and that falls through. But I don't anticipate any of that happening.
Well,
so that leaves us.
You know those Kentucky boys.
You know those Kentucky boys. But yeah, so that'll leave us with 3. And, there are some rumors. I know a lot of people are, asking questions about Kieran Gibbs and everything. And that'd be another, I think, great experience left back to have on the team. But, these spots will be filled in the next coming weeks. That will kind of move us into this next segment. We already covered the new CBA here, but there was, I don't want to say some fallout, just because, I say that word because fans obviously want the season to start as soon as possible, but there were some things that have been affected by the CBA, such as the official, kickoff and training camp. So give us an update on that.
Yeah, well, Jay, you're absolutely spot on. The CBA is approved. Both parties did come to terms, which, we don't need to harp on it. That would have been devastating to everyone, involved with the MLS listening to this podcast. So soccer is back. We are on the right track. The regular season schedule has...
Football is back. Just, you don't want to piss off any fans.
You're right. Football is back. The regular season schedule has not yet been announced, but 2 recent reports as of, I think, last week, they said that they will be rolling that out over the next 1 to 2 weeks or so. But to answer your question, sir, preseason camp will begin on March 8th. So most players will report on March 1st, undergo, that classic 2020 and above quarantine period before starting training camp on the 8th. But that's the timeline we're looking for.
Awesome. Now, here's something I've been wondering is, do you foresee preseason games or not, just due to COVID protocols? Because nothing's really been announced. And I'm not sure if they're just going to scrap that whole idea just because it's a lot more complex when you're dealing with COVID protocols, quarantining, all that stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great question. I think for years, professional athletes across any sport out there, NBA, MLB, NFL, MLS, et cetera, really don't like these games of preseason, right? They tend to be games that they're not really compensated for. Those are regular season matches as well as, incentives on end of year types of milestones. But Jay, I gotta say, I think that it's super important for the MLS to have preseason matches. I understand the concern of COVID being what it is, but in my eyes, if you're going to start preseason on March 8th and the regular season starting on April 17th, you're going to jump right in the thick of it, just about a month later, right? And I think, not giving these professional athletes the time to reacclimate themselves to real game time speed. Jay, we've been athletes all of our lives, and, there's one thing about practice, and there's one thing about being in the game, right? And that type of level of intensity, cannot be matched on the practice pitch. So I think to answer your question, yes, I do believe that we are going to have preseason matches. And I think it's really, really important to have those matches to make sure our players and club are up to form. Last year was our first year as an expansion club. And, our team got thrown together, over the offseason like every expansion team does. To have COVID, hit us right after that as a few games have gone on in the 2020 season, really kind of, stripped us of that ability to build team chemistry in the preseason before going into the regular season. So I'm really hopeful that we do. Hopefully we get, 4 or 5 games, under our belt. Obviously we'll see how some of these younger players, probably not as much as your Gonzalos or, your Lewis Morgans, things like that. But I think it's important to see how the team plays out there.
I Can't agree more with you. The coaches, front office definitely want to see him. Players, they'll kind of be divided on that. I believe it was 4 preseason games last season. So we'll know soon, right? When they release the season schedule, that news will be soon to follow. Do we get another trip up to, St. Pete to go play the Rowdies, or how's that look? But we will see. In addition to that, with the preseason being delayed, with opening day being delayed, MLS has actually announced that the primary transfer window has also been amended, and that the primary transfer window will now open March 10th and stay open through June the 1st, almost a month longer than planned. And the secondary transfer window remains the same, opening on July 7th and closing on August 5th. So these transfer windows, the primary transfer window, these are periods in which MLS teams can officially register any new players who were previously under contracts with clubs based outside the MLS, and for which an ITC, which is an international transfer certificate, is required. So again, those are the new dates. Keep your eyes open for the new schedule. Moving forward, we do have some, I guess exciting news, but the club did announce a new secondary jersey, La Palma, which is English for the palm.
Shocker.
This will actually, this is secondary, so this is the black jersey. This will replace the Rosa Negra, the black kit we had last season. It's going to be black. It's going to look almost exactly identical from the quote-unquote leaked photos. It basically will be replacing the Heron imprinted on the shirt with palm leaves imprinted on the shirt. So, it still looks good. Not a drastic change, but, hey.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Jay, where are you sitting with this?
I feel like indifferent. It's such a subtle change. Me personally, I lean more towards the Rosa Negra just because that's like the first jersey that they've really hyped up. That's kind of the jersey that everyone would want to say, like, hey, I was there day one. Palm trees aren't going to make me like go out of my way just to start buying more jerseys, but to some people it might.
Do you think we'll ever see like the Rosa Negra jersey back? Like,
I honestly, I don't think so. I think they're going to do, the way it works in the MLS is every 2 years you get a jersey change, and they stagger the primary and the secondary kit. So you're basically getting one new jersey every year. Now the MLS is bringing back the third alternate jersey, which I know everyone's just been been asking Santa, praying to whatever God they pray to, just please give us a pink jersey. So we'll see what happens with that. But there is going to be an event at the stadium.
There is. You can either catch this event over stream, I believe, which again, don't ask us where you can find this. Just go ahead and go on the Inter Miami app. If you don't have the app downloaded and you're listening to this podcast, you really got to look at yourself in the mirror. So go ahead, check it out on the app. It'll be streaming that way. Or if you did want to go to the stadium, and this is for season ticket holders, they will have access to a real quote unquote experience at the stadium from 12 to 5 p.m. where you can purchase the jersey and also partake in some other activities, including meeting Phil Neville, players of the team, stuff like that. Obviously everything will be COVID sensitive as well. So do keep that in mind if you do plan to go up to the stadium to see the new kit release.
Sounds like it'd be fun. Meet the coach, meet the players.
Will they be serving beer?
I would have to imagine so.
If
not, that's a missed opportunity.
Well, what's wild is I actually went to a Miami Hurricanes game. Unfortunately, it was a Tar Heels game last year, and the entire stadium was not serving alcoholic beverages.
So with college, it either goes conference by conference or stadium by stadium. For instance, in the ACC, you couldn't drink for a while, but at Tallahassee you could because it was locally owned. It was the convention center they play out of. So you could actually drink there. But college is kind of finicky because I don't know, maybe they just don't want underage kids drinking. But for the ones that are old enough and more importantly responsible, it can definitely make it a bit more entertaining.
I just found it kind of funny that, as the Orange Bowl was getting played, a few months ago, of course people could, but, not partake during the Canes, which that was a slaughter and I needed everything under the sun. But yeah, no, I was just curious, didn't know if they were going to rip out the old Heineken 10 or not.
I remember, in the football stadium, you couldn't, or maybe we were just under it. I don't know. I don't know if I should go over this story, but I do remember filling Ziploc bags up with only the worst whiskey college kids would drink, and then putting that inside my waistband to bring into the game.
We've all been there. Or the water bottle fill-ups that you're trying to conceal.
Bro, like the fake binoculars, dude.
Sure.
I've seen fake babies. It's crazy. It is crazy.
It's funny when you're in the middle of a game and you just see someone reach underneath their foot and pull out from their sock just a big, just dripping bag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let me just you order a large Coke and then no one asks any questions. There you go.
So moral of the story is the Heineken 10 may or may not be open, but do bring your alcoholic beverages stuffed in your sock in a plastic bag.
Don't tell them we told you if you get busted or anything.
Yeah, you didn't hear it here, but no, that is a pretty cool event. So if you do have time, again, that will be on February 27th from noon to 5 p.m. at the stadium. You know where that is, up here in Fort Lauderdale. So other than that, Jay, there were a couple new signings to happen in the front office. Why don't you go ahead and break that down?
Yes, so this was something that I'm actually was very, very happy to see. I think this is going to have a massive impact, much more than most people think. But first off, the club has announced that Mark Prizant will be the new director of scouting. He actually comes from Manchester United. I love all these Manchester United ties, even though I'm a Chelsea fan and don't really like Manchester United. But you got to respect him. So he served there for 4 years as the first team scout in the U.S. If you've been following anything about Man U, they obviously had a bit of a fall off period after Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Went through several different head coaches before Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was able to get him on the right track. But most importantly, they have been developing a lot of young talent over there. So to be able to get someone of that caliber to come over to the MLS in scout for us and be able to make recommendations on, players we should acquire, I think will have a massive, massive effect, over the next 5 years, assuming he's here 5 years. This might not be something you see in the first season, but this is something that you reap the benefits later on down the road. And then the second one, which I think we're both very excited about, because this is something that every single sports team needs. Doesn't matter what sport you play, what league you're in. Sam Gregory will be our director of analytics, our first ever director of analytics. He comes from NYCFC, where he was the director of field analytics. But anyone that's ever seen the movie Moneyball or can understand that, more so off names or goals scored, there are a lot of finite statistics that need to be tracked. And, when you really open up all these different, statistical columns, right, or statistical traits, it will really allow you to make the best selections much more outside just goal tally or assists, right? Stuff we're talking about would be, like pass completions, defensive efficiencies, tackling efficiencies, crossing efficiencies, just about everything you could ever imagine that would be a stat in the sport is something that, they will be analyzing and making their selections off that.
Yeah, when we start talking about analytics and the involvement of technology, and actually, the VP of our communications team, Gene, is heavily involved in the tech space, which should come as no surprise that, we're hiring folks and, paying payroll to an individual like the director of analytics, and everything that Jay said is spot on. And, to kind of dive into this, idea of analytics and the importance of data in today's in the sports world is that, we're starting to talk about, not just the right players to sign, but you're not on like a performance basis, but you're starting to dive into actual core personal levels. Like, what leagues do people translate better to into the MLS? How can we have this player recover from injury faster? You know, what is that Moneyball scheme that we can actually bring on a player for, say, $70,000 instead of, you know, $600,000, and actually look at why they fit well with the numbers and the statistics going along with our team. So this is a pretty cool step. It's something that, just as sports fans listening to this podcast are interested in sports, it's a trend that you're going to continue to see. And it's nice to see Inter Miami really kind of take that by the reins and pull it through the organization.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, again, this isn't, you know, just we want to go out there and acquire Gonzalo Higuain because of his, you know, goal scoring prowess and, you know, just overall pretty outstanding career he's had. This is you know, you can really tinker with these statistics, and this is how you build a system. This is how you build a structure and a program. This is where you can see, you know, what kind of system you want to build around Gonzalo, and then what, you know, abilities or traits that system would have. And then you can kind of input that stuff and be able to filter basically players that would be the best fit in that system, and to really build a complete threat, a machine almost.
Yeah, it's about building a system, but it's also why you're building that system. And that's the idea of analytics is that you're supported by, you know, millions and millions of lines of data that is supporting why you're making those decisions, right? And, you know, the more that we can stay intact with our data of our players, of our coaching staff, and of our club, you know, down the line, that's only going to further our projection and really kind of aid us as we look to continuously build Inter Miami into a powerhouse in the MLS.
Yeah. And, you know, this is I think, probably one of the most intricate sports when it comes to data and analytics. Because, you know, you look at, say, the NFL, or, you know, I guess we'll say the closest thing we could compare it to would be the MLB, right? Where you have your MLB teams and you have your D1, D2, D3 teams, right? Now that's what, 4 basically leagues, you know, you include college or something like that. With the NFL, it would really be just the NFL and then probably the colleges as well. But when you look at like football as a whole, how many different countries with different teams, different divisions, we're talking a much, much larger number of players. And the best way to really cipher through all this and figure out who's the best man for whatever you're trying to do is data analytics. So Sam, Gregory, you know, this will be something, again, we're probably not going to see the effects year one, but, you know, down the road, this stuff will really start to pay off in droves. Unfortunately, you know, when this stuff happens, you don't really get the credit.
Yeah, and, you know, we're going to talk about the last little bit of news about the team, which is really David Beckham opening up his check and just writing a freaking mind-blowing 11.2 million pounds, which is $15 million US. Mm-hmm. So, you know, obviously the next question that comes to mind is like, where is all this money going to go, right? You know, is it going to go into facilities? Is it going to go into player development? Is it going to go into
a Tableau license?
Exactly. Or is it going to go into our technology world, right? And obviously, you know, Mr. Sam Gregory coming over, you know, that is someone who's going to claim payroll and be a part of that $15 million check that David's written. You know, I also find it interesting, Jay, that, you know, I don't quote me on this, but I think we're one of 2 teams in the MLS that actually have a mobile app that enables live streaming of the actual games. So don't quote me. I think it's 2 or 3
something
teams.
like that.
Very small amount of teams in the league have this. And again, you're seeing this with the signing of Sam to kind of press that point on how this club does want to be technologically advanced.
Yeah, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure last season we were only like one of 2 or 3 teams that did not have someone handling analytics. So this was more, you know, kind of old school tactics. And, you know, that,
which is an interesting conversation too. And I don't mean to keep drawing this on, but, you know, there also is a conversation of when is that end for analytics, right? You know, just that keen eye into seeing something out there, you know, seeing a spark on the pitch for, you know, some of these younger players or you know, the under 17 club that we have and bringing them up to the big leagues. There's an aspect of analytics, but also bleeding it in between, you know, your just experience and knowledge of the actual game of football.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's got to be like a happy medium somewhere in there, right?
Let's hope we find it.
But I'll tell you what, it will certainly be a big boost, and we look forward to this. We really do. Outside of that, that's basically the news that we wanted to catch everyone up on. We wanted to get back out here, get an episode up there, and bring everyone back up to speed. Again, we will resume our supporters group series, wrap it up with the Southern Legion, and we're not that far away, and we've been conditioned so great last season to be able to, look forward to things that are down the road and not freak out about them. So everyone just keep doing what you're doing. Week by week, this thing will get closer, and sooner than later, we hope we get some preseason games, but we'll be back out there having fun, smiling again with a new coach, new front office, new everything. It's going to be a completely new experience for us. And we certainly look forward to it.
We appreciate the support, like always. Really stoked to be back on the mics. Real life does hit you in the head every once in a while, but it's good to be back here. Next week, we are going to have our third and final supporters group meeting with the Southern Legion. So we look forward to bringing that to you. We're excited about this. And as we end every episode,
Vamos Miami.
Vamos Miami.
Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you soon.